afternoon, John Donovan. Good to see you. It's been several
Hey, how you
weeks.
doing?
I'm doing great. You and I
It
have
has
both been
been, yeah,
traveling, and so
good,
learning
good.
more about ourselves.
Hmm.
Now here we are again, the last Friday of October.
Already, that's amazing. That's amazing. Um,
Considering we started this in May, yes, this is pretty amazing.
yeah, yeah, it's cool.
So what's been on your mind lately?
Um, the process of embodiment, um, and how um, how the rational mind gets um, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it gets anything, but in the rational mind get mixed up with analytical, where I hear people talk about the rational mind, and without the um, awareness that that rationality is fed through the heart. Um, so it convolutes the goal, which is to be kind and generous, and then we find ourselves doing irrational things, and then attempt to get back into the rational mind, which is the problem without the heart. Other than that, I'm just biding time. I'm enjoying um, my life and always open to better ways to say what I say, um, to offer other people the opportunity to live from this authentic, organic, fluid place.
Well, if I might, I think that the matter that you just raised is an important one, particularly for the beginning uh, person in practice and accountability practice, because there is a symbiosis between the emotions and the mind that's very difficult to dissect and to appreciate. So oftentimes when we're working with people in the accountability meetings, and we ask people to say, well, how do you feel? Or what's the feeling you have? We often get an explanation of a thought.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I feel attacked. Say, well, okay, how does that feel in your body? So being attacked is a description of an activity. It's not necessarily an emotion, although it can certainly generate an emotion. Or the other example that makes a lot of sense to me is that when you ask somebody to explain something and they start out, they say, I feel rather than I think. So
Hmm.
there's this interesting um, confusion or lack of clarity in the culture on the distinction between mentation and emotion and the actual relationship between the two, because they're you can't have one without the other in as a human being, because every emotion creates a thought, or sometimes, like in my case, it activates a previously existing thought template, because I have to have a way to tell myself what's going on. That brings us to language. Language lives in the realm of mentation and thinking and can pull us away from the feeling. So a lot of the work that we do is to help individuals forget all that for a moment and just feel the sensation in the body.
Yeah, and the logistics of the accountability process is to state your perception of what's happening, which another way to say that is state the data as you perceive it. Just
Right.
state the data, which is an awareness of what's happening around you, um, to allow the feeling, wherever it's coming from, childhood, adolescent, present moment, to be activated, um, and that feeling tone, um, gives you access to a myriad bits of information that may be pertinent to your safety and vitality in the moment. Um, and bypassing or actually not being aware that the feeling is a old pattern. You're actually doing the feeling work, only you don't know that it's coming from when you were 3, and the interpretation you made of that, and the pattern that developed out of that. So the accountability work, um, offers you the awareness that this is an old feeling, trauma, dysfunction that has been set in place for your survival that no longer is working for you. Um, and in the present moment, the um, it, one of the modalities that I work with is dialectical behavioral therapy, and their principles are, in trauma, you lose yourself, you lose the situation, and you lose the other. Well, that's our description, my description of an adrenaline rush or pattern of behavior that's stuck. So I lose who I am, I lose the situation, I'm now propelled into a past situation that was triggered by things in my current space, um, and I'm reacting instead of seeing what I want in the present moment, acting out of my power. The child had no power, so the pattern would be yelling, screaming, stomping, running out the room, or some emotional, verbal, or physical violence towards the person, um, that is motivated from the old pattern, which is true to you and subconscious. You don't even know you're doing it. Um, let's try to unwrap that.
Well, one of
And
the
that's what we do. We
yeah.
unwrap.
Well, actually, we do more than that, because having unwrapped it is necessary but not sufficient for me to live in the present. So that's why the
Right.
power of intention, the follow up to the experience, is so essential for the deepening to occur. I mean, I don't have to do it. I don't have to state an intention. I don't have to say what I want. I can just live with the awareness. And I did that for a long time. As I started to learn the practice, I was feeling really good that I could identify the feeling and didn't simply neglect it or forgot that I could now move ahead. And in that feeling tone, that feeling energy field, create an intention for something different. So the work continues by learning. I'm learning to use the feelings, even if they are triggered by a memory, something in the current moment reminding me of, reminding my little child of an experience in my childhood that therefore triggered a defense mechanism with all of its emotional complexity, that I actually can use that experience to create something that brings me into the present moment, that brings me towards something much closer to my actual heart's desire rather than my artificial love equals defense mechanism. So I was working this morning with a sponsee from ACA who also works the accountability practice, and we were talking about this. And this person has 40 years of sobriety and several years in the ACA and the accountability work, and we were laughing at the persistence of these deeply embedded emotional patterns from our childhood. And that, frankly, the major work that we're doing right now is just continuing to learn about them, to see where they are lurking in the subconscious. I get to shine new light on areas of myself that I was unaware of until something happened that allowed me, invited me, called to me to look deeper. So for me, one of the seminal moments is when you started saying about 2 months ago, I'm reveling in my character defects. Because my takeaway from that is when I'm experiencing something that I used to judge myself critically for, I used to trigger self-violence of some kind, emotional self-violence, I now can use that to create something new, something more powerful, something more present, something more appropriate to my current life situation. That, as you said a moment ago, I'm actually not in mortal peril, even though the inner child experience was an experience of mortal peril, and therefore
Yes.
had no choice but to defend against it.
Yep.
So the point I'm making here in this highfalutin verbiage is that the work is ongoing. And we even had a conversation about, it might be a misnomer to say that we're working on healing trauma, since it seems to persist no matter what. And perhaps a better understanding is that we're integrating the trauma into our adult experience. At this point in time, I'm not sure that healing is possible, in the sense that it's not there anymore. Like I heal a cut, it's all the blood's gone, the scar's gone, and there's no wound anymore. I don't know that healing can have that level of finality with these phenomena. I could be wrong. I just don't know.
My experience is that it does. The event or the memory of it doesn't go away, and I like the word integrated. It's integrated into the pool of information. And for me, and I would like you to check, see if this is true for you too, that when I see it reflected, mirrored to me from other people, I then have access or a route to them from me, from my experience of this. So it actually, it's transformative in that it's still there. Healing means it's not in charge, and yet it is still there for the purpose of my interaction with my environment, which includes other people, places, and things. So it's like my concept of the wounded healer,
Right.
the wound that I see, and it's real. It's like um, I can see also from this place their version of this pain, even though I may not relate directly to it. I can feel the frequency or feeling of disconnect, of discord, of hurt, of anguish, of I may not know the details for them, and I'm familiar with the frequency
Right.
or the feeling tone that it adopts.
It occurs to
So
me
yeah,
that this may be related to the collective unconscious trauma, that this might be like the bodhisattva principles, like
yeah,
my trauma doesn't get healed till everyone's trauma is healed. Because we are connected, I'm connected to our
yeah,
collective subconscious. And, gosh knows that the race has trauma as a collective, as a 7 billion strong population. That unconscious collective trauma is not only present, but it has the same antecedents in our history that my individual trauma does, or that the pattern works the same way. So perhaps part of it is um, the doesn't matter whether there's total healing, quote unquote, of my own trauma. What matters is that I use it to deepen my compassion, to deepen my identity as a human being, so that all human beings are within my embrace, no matter what, and not just my own experience, that I see mirrored in you or anybody that I'm in relationship with, our collective truth, our collective identity.
Yeah. Yeah. My experience of what's happening with me, Marty, is that I'm working with people now who it is my perception that they are um, um, it, the the time it takes to do this has shortened, or the healing process has accelerated, um, and that's testimony to the race consciousness, the race wounding, the what we're holding all together. Um, um, and it's been incremental, and yet um, it's been obvious to me. Um, it's just incredible where it's going and where I find myself too in this process.
Excellent.
So um, yeah, I'm actually enjoying this moment of this pause moment. um, and I know that in this space, something will come out that normally wouldn't come out without this respite or silence moment, um, or not. And it's cool.
What jumped into my mind as you were saying that is the coherence of the insights with the most ancient of our wisdoms. I was thinking particularly about mysticism and the mystic traditions in all the major religions from the East to the West, that there's only one thing going on underneath the appearances. And that unity, that small u unity, is what allows us to access one another. And that the trauma is what brings my attention to the possibility. That it's like the old piece of sand in the oyster. The irritation leads to the pearl. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the irritation of our trauma is the irritant that can open our eyes to the deeper truth, and to the when I realize that everyone has some element of a traumatic emotional pattern in their lives. It's like, oh, cool. We're all in the same club. We're all in the same team. We're all in the same family. We all have the same talisman of a challenge. And so what on the surface I may judge as a difference or as something that irritates me that you did becomes the invitation to look into the deeper connectivity that's not obvious on the surface, at least at the immature level of my thinking. So for me, the power of the accountability practice is that it's an endless series of door openings, that no matter what door I've opened, there's another one that I get to open further down the line after I assimilate what I just learned.
Yes.
And after I test it with you and anybody else in my life. I test it for viability and veracity. And then eventually I'm going to run up against a wall of something else that wants to be discovered. And the beauty of it is I don't have to go anywhere to work on the discovery. I can just sit still like we were just doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing to do.
Yeah. And it's the progression is infinite. So to the intentional living material accountability process, what I'm seeing we are offering other people is um, an opening to get on the bus. It's it's like the foundation for whatever it is their their interpretation of this life or their experience of this life is going to be, and then their contribution to the whole, um, which for me I found is in doing exactly what I love to do, not doing what I should, have to, got to, ought to, thou shalt not, simply being that authentic me, which is really excited about being in this conversation over and over and over and over. One of the experiences I had this last couple of weeks, I went to North Carolina and I met with old friends, actually some old clients who are now colleagues. And I felt loved by a lot of people. And it was worth everything I've done so far, is to experience me experiencing being loved by the people. And I see it in their eyes. I see it in their gestures. I see it in their, and I feel it. So everything I've done up until now, if that were the benchmark, or if that was I would do it again for that. And I know there's more. I know there's really more. So.
One of the things that we've played around with in the accountability meetings is the capacity to set an intention on a happy emotional state. That, the practice that we're taught is, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling ashamed or whatever. And in that energetic field, I can plant a new intention for something more powerful or something more present. But as I was listening to you speak, I was thinking, geez, I'd set the intention to have more of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is my intent to continue this process. It is my intent to continue to be authentic. It is my intent to give this away as freely as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. I intend to be in touch with the joy of this communion.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Guess we can call that a wrap, huh? We're only, what, 20 minutes into this, and we just figured everything out. Cool.
Yeah, until I forget.
Yeah, until we forget,
Until life strikes a glancing blow. It's funny. On my trip, I went to spend a few days with an old family friend from decades ago, and he was asking me about what it takes to prepare a message on Sunday at my church, which I do weekly. And I said, it's interesting because I only say one thing. There's only one thing we say on Sundays, and my challenge is to find a different way to say it each Sunday. So we're not introducing anything new.
Mm-hmm.
We're just saying there's only one thing going on the planet. In Christian terms, we call it God, and I am a participant in that, and my work is to align my consciousness with that.
Yes.
But if I were just to say that every week, that might not serve. So it's like you were saying, like we do on this podcast, we're continually looking for new creative ways to express the same idea, the same practice, the same focus. I like to think we're
Mm-hmm.
like the Beatles of accountability. The Beatles made a commitment at the beginning of their career they were never going to do the same song over again.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Grateful Dead, they never did the same concert ever.
Mm-hmm.
Kept mixing it up. So, John, you're like the Jerry Garcia of accountability.
Oh, I didn't see that one coming. uh,
Sorry, I couldn't
uh,
resist.
that's I've been referred to as Johnny Cash. One guy comes up to me and looks at me and goes, "You're Johnny Cash. You're Johnny Cash." It's like the guy. Yeah, yeah. Um, feels good. Let me read this thing I wrote and see where this goes. And it was about life. I believe I sent this one to you earlier. I may or may not have. I know I sent something to you. It goes like this: the gift of life is experience. Say yes. I've come to this moment and feel a profound depth of loss and betrayal, and at the same instant, a profound depth of gratitude and bliss. And both are absolutely infinite, and there is no distinction of good or bad, right or wrong. It simply is. Tragedy and bliss, seen from the mountaintop of old age, combine to form beauty. This must be why the realized ones sit in silence with a wry smile pursed on their lips. Experience is the gift. Say yes.
Yeah, you didn't send that one, so thank you.
This, uh, you're welcome. The accountability process gets me into my body so that I can accumulate experiences. Where the trauma, the expression of the trauma, is a pattern of behavior that keeps me from new experiences. It keeps me stuck in past experiences. So the wisdom I may gain in a particularly difficult situation, being present in my body is missed because I'm doing old behavior, stomping my feet, running out, slamming doors, screaming and yelling, doing emotional, verbal, or physical violence towards myself or the other person. And I don't gain this wisdom of experience, this embodiment of um, myself in relationship to other. And the accountability process and my recovery has led me to the place where I can.
Welcome back from our technical hitch, our technical glitch. For those who are watching this, my brand new laptop just froze entirely, and so I'm on my old one for as long as it lasts.
Cool. Yeah. So the last thing I remember saying is that the accountability process has enabled me to have an experience in my body. Um, I don't know how I said it, but it's free from the traumatic response that I would normally be in, pattern of behavior, and I'm actually able to experience my life as it's happening in the present moment. because of the mitigation, healing, reframing of the trauma, the old emotional trauma. Nicole. Yeah.
What I was thinking as you were sharing all
Um,
that was to pull the camera all the way back to the beginning. And if somebody is listening to this for the very first time, to introduce to that person just what the hell we're talking about. Because you created this process several decades ago. You've refined it over the course of the last 20, 25 years. I've participated with you for almost 10 years now. So we've got some matured insight into this process. But if I'm starting out for the very first time, I might not hear a word we're saying.
yeah.
So maybe we could just give an overview to the newcomer about the process, what the insight is, and how the practice leads to this kind of experience that you were just describing.
Hmm. Well, I started in the 12-step recovery groups because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I was looking for some relief. So anybody who has made the choice to get help or to gather new information about what's going on with them, to figure themselves out, um, um, this is a process that I've come up with, um, and it's about recognizing that where I find myself in this sick and tired of being sick and tired was a direct result of information given to me in my childhood. We call it dysfunction or trauma, being traumatized, and that trauma or that wounding dictating life patterns of behavior that as an adult I find myself isolated, alone, or empty, and wanting something more. So anybody looking for relief or something that would bring some sense of peace or tranquility, um, they generally go to a therapist, a 12-step meeting if their issue is a substance or a pattern of behavior that is destructive. Um, Hopefully they'll find themselves um, here with us somehow, some way. And then this is about sorting out my patterns of behavior and owning them, and then creating my life, my authentic life. It's about finding myself. Who am I? What do I want? Who am I? Where am I? What do I want? Instead of living my parents' life, or I found myself not wanting to be like my father, and I found myself exactly like him. So it's a process of recovery, or you can call it a process of discovery, discovering self, discovering something different about life that nobody told you about, that you're an authentic, loving, self-actualized being, and you get to have what you want. You get to have the life that was meant for you, not the one that your parents lived or somebody told you would be a good idea for you to live.
Let's explore that self-actualizing thing there a little bit, because my memory of getting involved in my first adult child of alcoholics meeting in 1989, I walked into the room with the unshakable assumption that most of my problems were other people's faults,
Yep.
and that essentially, although I didn't have this verbiage in mind, essentially I was a victim of circumstances in the most benign. At the most benign, I was a victim of circumstances. At the most malign, I was the victim of people that were out to get me in one way or
Right.
the other.
Yeah.
So how do we move from this belief that my problems are other people's faults to the capacity to own that whatever's going on in my life, I'm in some way, shape, or form the author of.
Um, the individual has to want something different. Otherwise, what you just said doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Um, as the first question when somebody comes to me is, what do you want? And most people come to treatment or a counselor with the idea of, I'm going to tell them what's wrong with them so that they can fix their life and get on with it. And when I don't do that, I simply ask them, what are you looking for? What do you want? Um, that's the introduction into this intentional living. Um, well, I wish I had a good answer for that.
Well, I think you hit the key on it right there, which is the wanting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could want what somebody else tells me I should want, but in order for me to move toward that, I have to want to do that. So somehow there's a relationship of, between desire and authenticity. And that, for me, my breakthrough, I've shared on the podcast before, but my breakthrough in working with you was when I realized that the fact that I was having significant debt problems came because somehow subconsciously I wanted to be in debt. I just had that grace to see that what was showing up in my life was from a desire that I had, even though I didn't know it in the sense that I could say, oh yeah, yeah, like, like I want that record, or I want that couch or whatever. It wasn't that straightforward, but I learned from you that whatever it is that I have in my life, as long as I can look at the results that I have that are showing up in my life, consider the possibility that that's showing up that way because somehow in my subconscious mind or heart, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And only I can want it.
Right.
The IRS wasn't wanting me in debt. I was doing it. My credit card companies weren't making me spend money irresponsibly. I was doing that.
Right.
And so I can make them the bad guys because I got to pay them back and all the interest rates and the penalty payments and blah, blah, blah. But they didn't do any of that. I did.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's how many, have you heard like stats about how many people are in, like, say, AA or in a 12-step group? And the last stat I heard was from 10 years ago, 17 million, or 17 million members. Maybe more people looked and then went away. Um, the uh, um, So, a lot of people are continuing to do whatever they're doing to fix themselves in like, and I don't know. This is a difficult question. How does a person who doesn't know that they're powerful just even get it that they're creating everything in their life? It's like, mine was, and what generally prompts people to move to help is what AA calls hitting your bottom, or what I said, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I listened to somebody when they mentioned I should go to this meeting based on what I told them. And whatever I was telling them, I wanted them to tell me how to fix it. And they simply said, well, you go to this meeting and see what happens. So I went to the meeting. And the good news is more people who are around like that, to the more people will be referred to some source of information that is different than what they got, whether it's 12-step therapy, counseling, life coach, financial planner, whatever it is they're looking to solve. It's like,
Well, I think one of the other keys to it is that the process, whether it's a 12-step meeting, AA or adult children of alcoholics, whether it's accountability practice meeting or whatever, um, um, we encounter for the first time in our lives an environment of non-judgment. There's something alchemical about being able to state something, anything, even if we judge it as stupid or scary to say, and nothing comes back to us but, okay. So for me, that there's something really incredibly powerful about stepping into that environment, even if there's no consciousness of that's what's going on. There's an awareness, there's like a relaxation that, you know, it may take several meetings for someone to go, just like with a therapist, it may take several sessions. But there's a real power in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to meet one of those people. And my goal is to create a whole mess of those people that are out there, and hopefully somebody will look at them and say, what do you have? How do you do that? And the process will start.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So.
Because one of the things that we become aware of is that as children, so often our natural desires were altered violently or emotionally. So we became inured to the belief that I can have what I want. We became numb to the possibility.
Yes.
And that's where we began surrendering our agency to what appeared to be outside forces. And of course, when you're a little kid, your agency is fragile because it has to develop over time.
Yeah. And you're not aware enough to know that you've been traumatized. It's simply your body takes care of keeping you safe, and it's hidden from you, and you do the best you can with the information you have.
Right.
So I consider myself one of the fortunate people who hit their bottom and said, I want help, and started looking.
Well, don't you think that part of what makes all of this possible is that human beings are born with an innate drive to self-organization, self-authorship? Don't you think it's likely that this is part of our heritage? That even as it gets warped or truncated or screwed up as little children, you can't kill it.
No.
You can repress it, but I don't think the only way to kill it is to actually kill the organism.
Yeah. And that's not really killing it. It's what it's manifested this
Right.
on the planet or this lifetime.
Right.
It's inextinguishable. And it's part of, well, let's do Ken Wilber. It's part of the developmental process of maturation. Okay, so I want to be an effective part of that, an effective change agent. I want to be leading edge. And what I've found is when I do my internal work, people look at me differently, and some inquire. Not all of them, but some inquire, and I'm available to people. and the people that have worked with me, or people that are doing their own journey, however that looks, whether it's intentional living or finding their authentic self or going to workshops, they're looking for something, and hopefully they 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 find it.
Well, that's one of the branches of our ongoing conversation is the possibility that what appears to us in our world as chaos, turmoil, pandemic, end times might actually be a way that we have to undertake this journey for
Yeah,
greater self-discovery and self-awareness. I mean, nobody ever promised it would be easy or straightforward.
yeah, yeah. And it's like the universe is conspiring to wake us up and
Right.
offering all kinds of opportunities for that to happen. And hopefully it doesn't happen with, broken legs and bashed teeth and laying in a gutter somewhere.
Yeah, but it has.
It has. It has.
I mean, one of the
And,
interesting historical truths is that there's powerful evidence that the Renaissance occurred in part because the Black Plague wiped out half the population of Europe in the century before, making space for this thing that became the Renaissance.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to find a different way.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
So.
Of course, how do you make God laugh?
I don't know. Say stuff like that again, and we'll see. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Tell them your plans.
yeah, tell her the plan. Um, I don't know if now would be a good time to, being as we're talking about people maybe hearing this for the first time, to offer resources.
Sure.
Um,
We got a few minutes left.
And different people have offered their idea of what's going on. Alice Miller comes to mind, Drama of the Gifted Child. Gabor Mate, who's a psychiatrist who is working with in the addiction field, has looked at the trauma aspect of addiction and disease. Basil van der Kolk wrote a book, I believe, When the Body Says No. And
The
talks
body
about
keeps the score.
body keeps the score. Gabor Mate wrote the book When the Body Says No. That and just start reading yeah.
The good news also is that there are almost all of those people. I don't know about Alice Miller, but certainly almost all those people have talks or interviews on YouTube. So you can, if you don't have the patience to read anymore, which many people don't, you can listen.
Yeah. YouTube is a great resource.
There's also the movie, The Work, which comes from work that you did at Folsom Prison.
Yeah, documentary.
It's a documentary of how something similar to what we do impacted or impacts prisoners in Folsom Prison here in California. Very, very powerful work. And I think it does a great job of, through observing the practice, the process, and then interviews, interspaced in between the actual working sessions that you get to watch, give people an understanding of how to break through the emotional blockages and what that gives you when you do that work.
Another way is to simply look for what you enjoy doing. What do you love to do? What brings you joy? That's from Joseph Campbell, Follow Your Bliss.
Right.
identify that thing that gives you the most pleasure or peace or tranquility or ease, and then simply do that. And I would offer that most people would have to do it in their spare time, in between their day job and their nightly duties, whatever that may be, with kids and family, and find out what that thing is that you love to do, and that will open up something for you that can be opened up no other way. So
I think one of the things that I would offer someone who wants to explore what we're talking about is you don't have to do this alone, and probably you can't do it alone.
yeah,
You can try, and
yeah,
God knows I tried, but I think that there's power in the group process, because as I said earlier, the group process offers us an environment of unconditional love that is something that we desperately want and didn't experience as little children. And
right,
in an atmosphere of unconditional love, it will astonish you how much growth can occur and how quickly it can occur.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And unconditional love doesn't got a lot of frills. It's just simply the capacity to accept things as they are, accept people as they are, the lack of any sense that anything needs to be fixed, anything needs to be intervened in. It's just a vast expanse of acceptance and ease, peace.
Yeah. And I want to offer a qualifier here for people who might hear, unconditional love and think we're some kind of new agey, bubble-headed kind of people. Uh, Unconditional love gives you the capacity to say no firmly. So it's not all like everything goes. It is direct. It is firm. It is power, and it's on both sides of the spectrum. It's you saying yes to life, letting other people say yes where they want to say yes and not meddling, and then you being able to say no, I don't want to do that, or no, that's not who I am, and move into your space. So that I used to hear unconditional love and think I need to let people do whatever they wanted, which one of the things they wanted to do was run all over me or criticize me, and I'd be unconditionally loving and accept. No, no, I do not accept that. And I want to offer I'm unconditional. They can do that over there. I'm unconditional. They can do that. I'm not going to participate. So just a
Yeah.
qualifier on that. Yeah.
Well, and when you're pointing out the challenge of the work is
Mm-hmm.
that we often can talk in these general principles, but they all have specific applications, and that's where it gets messy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how we learn, though, is by getting mixed up with the actual life, make mistakes, fall
Mm-hmm.
down,
Mm-hmm.
ask for help, ask for guidance. Um, it took me a long time, John. I'm not sure that I'm still there at age 69 of that. I'm just willing to ask for help whenever I need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still have this resistance. It's not as powerful as it used to be by any means, but it's still there. It's like it's not my go-to place when I have a problem.
Yeah.
So, but I've learned,
Yeah.
and I've learned that most times, if not 100% of the time, if I ask for help, people say yes. Much to my inner kid's shock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of the people I work with ask me, who do I go to?
Right.
And it's a very astute question, because I do have people I go to. If I'm feeling puny, inadequate, in an anxiety space, I do have people I go to talk and be with and express and share and ask for help. Um, so it's cool. Never
I think
ends.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I tell the people who are listening, I've asked John for help, and he's never said no.
Yeah.
It's
That's right.
possible.
It's possible.
Well, in spite of our technical difficulties, our time is up. Any last minute words of wisdom?
This is what came into. I wrote this. It's a one sentence statement, and it goes like this: the last gesture is a reaching. That's what I got.
There you go.
There you go.
I think we'll just leave it there. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk again next week.
Okay, Marty, thank you.
Thank you, John. Welcome back.
Okay. Good to be back.
Bye.